constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win.
Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base hit. Justice has scored the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Bracket throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them away from their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires, ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Yes, it's goodbye. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's version of the Dan Scott Show, version, edition, whatever you want to call it. I am indeed your host, Dan Scott. Hope everything is going well with you. Welcome to the first Winter Wonderland of 2018 here in the upstate of South Carolina, and hope that wherever you are, you've made the right decision about whether it's safe to get out on the roads or not. I decided it was time to stay home. One of the great things about being, or the smart things about being a good bad weather driver, which I consider myself to be, is knowing when not to get on the roads. So rather than heading out to Furman today, we decided to hang out here, do the show in the not yet completed home studio, but still try to operate as close to normal as possible. Of course, if you've seen the show, and those of you who've known me for a long, long time, you know that my definition of normal is usually a little bit different than everybody else's. But you are getting a glance at what will be the set of the home studio. In fact, you can see the back of this flat screen television here. That baby's going to be mounted on the wall right up here, so it'll be over my right shoulder, over the left side of the screen as you look at it. And that's going to give us an opportunity to do a lot of things with graphics, and even hoping that we'll be able to, for instance, when we have Dave Glenn on, maybe FaceTime or Skype him in and actually run it through the TV so you can see who we're talking to. So we're working on all kinds of good stuff, but we'll be using it for graphics and a number of other things, and there'll be some other additions. But this is the very rudimentary beginning stages of what is going to be my home studio office here, and we're going to be using it for a number of different things, both on this show and some other things that we're going to be doing. As I said, the weather precluded us from getting over to Furman today, and it has made a scheduling change at Furman today. The women's basketball game with East Tennessee State that was originally scheduled for tonight has been moved to tomorrow and will be part of a men's-women's doubleheader at Timmons Arena. And both of those games will be on ESPN3, and I will be calling both of those games on ESPN3 with Bryant Lambert. The women's game will start at 5:30. The men's game should be pushed back, or at 5 o'clock rather, excuse me. Women's game starts at 5 o'clock, and the men's game should be pushed back to 7:30. I'm getting an official confirmation of that, and as soon as I do, we'll let you know, but generally that's how these things work. And so it'll be a Furman ETSU doubleheader at Timmons Arena tomorrow. And ETSU, perhaps surprisingly to a lot of people, coming into Timmons tomorrow night, talking about the men now, undefeated in the league at 5-0 and playing incredible basketball under head coach Steve Forbes. Peter Jerkin, the 7-foot center who got a 6th year of eligibility, is coming off Player of the Week honors. This is going to be a big test for Bob Ritchie's team, coming off of the loss at Wofford back on Saturday night, the first conference loss of the season. Paladin still in great shape at 13-5 overall and 4-1 in the league, and a win on Thursday, tomorrow night, puts them back into a tie for first place in the league. You know, it's hard to believe. Once we get through this week, there will only be 2 games remaining in the first half of the conference season. Now, I want you to think about that. How quickly, once we got to the first of the year, things have gone. You've got ETSU Thursday, which is tomorrow. You've got Samford at home on Saturday. And then you've got 2 games remaining in the first half. You go to Greensboro on Wednesday of the following week, and then have Western Carolina coming to Timmons Arena, and boom, that's the first half of the conference season. Just that quickly. So the time to make hay is now. Paladin's still sitting in very, very good shape, and want to defend the home court advantage that Timmons has become. Furman, in conference games, has won 19 of its last 20 games at Timmons Arena. The only loss in that span was last year to UNC Greensboro, and that snapped a 10-game conference winning streak overall, you remember. Furman won 6 games in the league on the road last year, and now looking to make a move at home with back-to-back home games this week. Both of them are going to be difficult, and tomorrow night is going to be a heck of a battle. Anyway, let's see. Did we get the confirmation? Not yet. Not yet. So we do believe, though, that with the women's game being moved to 5 o'clock, the men's game will tip at 7:30. If there's anything different, I'll be sure to let you know. Coming up on the program today, we have a good show for you. No business like snow business, of course. That's why we are here in the home studio today. We'll visit, as we do every Wednesday, with Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com and talk to him about all things going on in the league, including Clemson now 0 for 59 in Chapel Hill. They fell again last night to the Tar Heels in the Dean Dome, and in one of the most incredible streaks in the history of sports will continue for at least one other year. We'll have some more Furman news and notes to get to, and a tragedy in Pullman, Washington, that we are going to, I don't know that we can make any sense of it, but we're going to try to use it to at least make you aware of some things and how maybe you can help someone who may be in distress. So we've got all of that coming up for you on the program today, and look forward to spending that time with you between now and 11 o'clock. The show, as always, brought to you by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. They're located in Cherrydale Plaza, right down the road from campus. And, man, this time of year when it's cold, the hot soup and hot chili. I had some of the Frontier chicken chili yesterday for lunch, and it was amazing. Sandwiches, the hot sandwiches and paninis they have, the hot drinks, all the things to warm your soul on these cold days, they've got it for you. The food is fantastic. The people are even better. And as always, I ask you to thank Jeff Massey and all of the folks there for what they've done in support of this program. That's the Atlanta Bread Company in Cherrydale Plaza, just down the road from campus in Greenville. All right, when we come back, we will get headlong into some of the stories of the day, and Dave Glenn looming at 10:25. This is the Dan Scott Show, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Traveler's Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimmented cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back to the show. It is 10:13. We are very happy to have you with us here on the program. Hope that your morning is going well. Again, I hope that you made the right decision about whether or not to get out on the roads. You know, where I live over in Pickens County, just outside of Clemson, it is enough snow to put a little dusting on the roads right now, and the yard is pretty much covered. But the roads in this part of the area right now still seem to be somewhat passable. Watching the news this morning and seeing what Travelers Rest look like and some other places in Greenville, and of course the further north you go, the more you're going to get. It was pretty nasty. And you know, as I said, I grew up in West Virginia, grew up in a place where we got a significant amount of snow most winters. And on top of that, I learned to drive. And some of you who are old enough to remember these, you can really appreciate this. I learned to drive in my dad's 1978 Chevy station wagon. So you know what a beast those things were. 8-cylinder engine. That thing would flat out fly. I never told my dad how much it would fly, but it would flat out fly. And then, you know, on top of that, there's no weight in the back. In West Virginia, you know, hills and mountains everywhere. So that's what I grew up in. That's what I grew up learning to drive in. So that's why I say I consider myself to be, I feel naked without a pen in my hands. Call me what you will. But that's what I learned to drive in, and why I consider myself to be a good bad weather driver. But as I said, part of being a good bad weather driver is knowing when not to get out in the bad weather. And no offense to the folks here in the South, most of y'all ain't good bad weather drivers. So I hope you made the right decision, and I am very, very pleased to have so many of you joined in here on the program. If you are joining us for the first time, we are here every day at this time from 10 to 11 on Facebook Live. Streams on my Twitter feed via Periscope, and actually live streams on YouTube as well. And if you're in the Furman area, normally within about a 5 to 7 mile radius, you can pick it up on the campus FM at 95.9. Not the case today. We are web only exclusively today. So we're happy to have you with us. Tell your friends about it. Share the show post on your timeline on Facebook, or retweet the link now. Help us grow the audience. We've seen some significant growth in the show numbers over the first year, basically, that we've been doing it. We want to take it to another level and make sure we're doing everything we can for our sponsors and get even more of them on board as well. Just as kind of a little bit of a heads up, when we get to the fall, it's probably going to be a bit of a philosophical change in what we're doing here and how we're doing it, which is going to benefit both Furman significantly and everything else we're going to do significantly, but in a much different way. But more about that once we get to it. All right, let's get to some of the news and notes going on. And again, Dave Glenn coming up at 10:25 here this morning. I want to start, unfortunately, with the just awful news out of Pullman, Washington. I don't know if you've seen this morning, but Tyler Helinski, the quarterback who came off the bench in the Holiday Bowl and led Washington State to a comeback triple overtime win over Boise State, 47-44, was found dead this morning actually found dead last night, according to a press release from the Pullman Police Department, of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was 21 years old. According to the release, it said that, quote, a rifle was discovered next to Helinski and a suicide note was found. Detectives in the Whitman County Coroner's Office are conducting a thorough investigation to confirm the suspected cause and manner of death. And then, of course, as you might imagine, the school and head coach Mike Leach putting out statements of disbelief and offering up condolences and prayers to the families, family and friends of this young man. 21 years old, had appeared in 12 games over the last 2 seasons, started the Holiday Bowl for the Cougars, and was expected to replace Luke Falk as the team starter in 2018. But football seems so unimportant when you come across a story like this. I mean, it's one thing if, a tragic accident takes the life of anyone, but in a kind of a public setting, we're talking about a college football player here, that's bad enough. But when apparently something was going on in this young man's mind, something was going on in his life that he was led to believe this was the best way out, that makes it even more of a tragedy. And, they're in this business, and talking about the media business, there's always a debate about whether or not you should publicize, whether or not you should talk about suicides. Is a suicide something that should be talked about, printed in the old days of newspaper? And the reason being is that studies showed that when those things were publicized, there was an increase in suicides. So basically the rule of thumb has been, in most places, not all, some places they'll cover it like news regardless, but in a lot of places the rule of thumb has been that the only time a suicide is covered is if it's a public figure. And I can't help but wonder if that is both good and bad. And by that I mean this. Yes, those studies showed what they showed, that by publicizing suicides, more suicides tended to happen in those areas or nationwide or whatever when those stories became public. But at the same time, it presents us an opportunity to try and educate, to try and reach out to people who may be in a very similar frame of mind, who may find themselves in a situation where they're contemplating something like that, thinking that there's no way out when there always is. I mean, my first piece of advice to anyone who feels that way would be to find the pastor of a reputable Bible-believing church and go get counseling there. That would be my first piece of advice. Beyond that, there is a national number that you can call. And I'm going to put this on the screen, and I would love for you to take the time right now to write this down and keep it handy. Just in the event that you come across somebody who may be in a similar frame of mind or knows somebody who they fear may be in a similar frame of mind. It's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and you can see the number there, 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, and again, you can see it is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There are always people there manning those phone lines to offer comfort, help, and support to someone who may be in a place where they feel that suicide is the only way out. This tragedy of Tyler Helinski is no greater or worse than the tragedy of anyone else who commits suicide. But what makes it more of a news story is the fact that he's a public figure. He is a high-profile college football player at a major university, and that puts him, for better or worse, on the public stage. What you hope comes out of this is awareness. You hope that awareness comes out of it. You hope that through the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, through local churches, whatever the case may be, if someone feels like there's no place left to turn, that we can show them that there is another avenue. There are other routes they can take. There are places where they can get help. So you hope in the midst of just a horrible situation in Pullman that good will come out of it, that more and more people will be sharing that number, that hotline. More and more people will be making aware to everyone counseling services available through the churches, through, whatever the case may be. And I know there are a lot of great secular counseling services as well. I tend to look at things from a Christian perspective. But the bottom line is, if nothing else, again, there's the number, 800-273-8255. That's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And keep that number handy. You never know when you may need it. And we will join everyone else with offering up our thoughts and prayers and condolences to the family and friends of Washington State quarterback Tyler Hilinski. All right, we will step aside for a break. We'll come back, and Dave Glenn will join us. We will talk ACC sports with the best in the business. That's coming up next on the Dan Scott Show. We'll be back in just a moment.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament, and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Traveler's Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, it's 10:26, and we are back on this snowy Wednesday here in the upstate of South Carolina. I'm Dan Scott. Good to have you with us. Before we go to the celebrity guest line and welcome in our guest. Just a quick word about our friends at Hall's Chop House. They're located downtown Greenville, the Greenville Steakhouse, as Billy will remind you, and there's a reason they can say that. You know, when you call yourself the anything, you better be able to back it up, and they do, with Allen Brothers Prime Steaks out of Chicago leading off the menu. Everything falls into place from there. You know about the meeting space they have available for your corporate get-together, for your birthdays, anniversaries, whatever the need for that meeting space, they've got it, the menu to handle it. They are open 7 nights a week for dinner, open for brunch on Sundays, live music every time the doors are open, and when the weather is good, they have a patio, outdoor patio for you to use as well. And don't forget, next week, and I'm still waiting on confirmation of which day, but it looks like it's going to be either Tuesday night or Thursday night. We're going to do the show live from Hall's Chop House in downtown Greenville. Cannot wait to get down there. The Greenville Steakhouse, that is Hall's Chop House downtown. All right, we turn our attention now to all things Atlantic Coast Conference, and we bring in the best in the business to talk about it. He is the chief cook and bottle washer at ACCSports.com. You can hear him rumbling through the snow in the background in North Carolina now. It's Dave Glenn, as always. Dave, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Dan. The snow hit us a little later than originally expected. So all the little kids in the Glen neighborhood went to bed saying, Mr. Glenn, if we wake up with 3 or 4 inches of snow, can we sled down your back lawn? I have kind of a sloped lawn, which is the place to be if there's enough snow for sledding. And they all woke up without a shred on the ground. But it is coming down now, so their sledding dreams may come true in my backyard by the end of the day.
Now, I got to ask you this question. With your law background, do you have them sign a waiver before they do the sledding down your back lawn?
No, I recklessly roll the dice and just hope nobody gets hurt. And frankly, somebody usually does get hurt, right?
Yeah.
Somebody can't wait for the last person to get out of the way, so they start down the hill, and that person hasn't moved their sled yet, so there's a collision. I probably should, and I appreciate that pro bono advice. But, yeah, Mr. Glenn lets his guard down a little bit when the kids are all that giggly and excited about sledding.
You're just an old softy at heart, aren't you?
Right?
That's fantastic.
If I have a lawsuit to report next Wednesday, I won't have you to blame. That's for sure.
Well, hey, I do what I can. As I tell people, Dave, it's the least I could do, and never let it be said I didn't do the least I could do. So, that's the way it goes. Hey, I have this recurring fantasy that one of these Wednesdays during college basketball season, you and I are going to start a show, and the top story is going to be the streak in Chapel Hill is no more. Unfortunately for Clemson, that's not going to be 2018.
No, but the good news is this is one of those rare years where Clemson is capable of beating North Carolina. And I saw it last night, and it got really nerve-wracking toward the end for the Tar Heels. All those Carolina players are aware of the streak and want to be on the team that loses it. All those Clemson players are aware of the streak and were extra motivated to be the team that broke it. It got hairy last night. That Clemson starting lineup is for real. And I think after you get past the top 3 teams, Virginia's playing amazing basketball. Duke is mega talented, and I'll put Carolina in that top 3 as well. After you get past those 3, even though the Tigers did not break the forever streak last night, I think the Tigers belong in the conversation for number 4 in the ACC power rankings, if you will. And I don't even know Clemson fans who thought they'd be this good this year after losing Jaron Blossomgame, one of their best players in recent vintage, to professional basketball. So steps in the right direction for Brad Brownell. The season after, some wondered whether he was even going to keep his job. But year number 8 for Brad looks a lot like year number 1, which as we speak is the only time he made it to the NCAA tournament. We all know what a huge measuring stick that is in college basketball. These Tigers are well positioned thanks to that starting 5 and some really well-developed transfers. They look like an NCAA tournament team to me, and that's at least some consolation, even though they're now 0-59 all time in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, it's very interesting. A year ago, Brad had one of his best offensive teams that he's had at Clemson, and his hallmark has been obviously being a great defensive team, and they had one of the worst defensive years, maybe on record in a lot of ways. Lost so many games at the end of the game last year because of defensive breakdowns. It seems though as if last night's loss aside, that both parts of that game have come together this season.
I agree, and it still starts with defense. You're right. Last year, and maybe one other, was an anomaly for Brad, who I've been following since he was an incredibly successful head coach at UNC Wilmington a long time ago here in North Carolina. This is the defense-first philosophy that we're used to seeing from his teams. I'd say Clemson is one of the 20 best defensive teams in the entire country, and I think the numbers back that up. Offensively, they're not quite that good, but when their starting five is out there, I mean, Shelton Mitchell's not always a good shooter, but he was last night. Marquise Reed, at his best, can be a borderline all-ACC caliber player. Gabe DeVoe's always been a good shooter, and the other parts of his game have come along. And Elijah Thomas, you want to talk about a sort of a symbol of the balanced basketball that you're describing. He is in the vintage of some great Clemson big men. When I was a young guy, I saw Elton Campbell and Dale Davis on the same team as Clemson in 1990 won a regular season ACC championship. Elijah Thomas is one of those guys who has the combination of low post skill offensively. If he caught it down there, Luke May or those freshman big men were not stopping Elijah Thomas at that end of the court last night. And then I don't think he had a lot of blocked shots last night, but he is a force defensively when he stays out of foul trouble. So that's a fantastic combination in a single player. Dante Grantham fits that theme as well. He was not good offensively last night, but he's always been a pretty good defender, and his game has grown leaps and bounds offensively this year. So when they go to their bench, they run into some problems, and they really drop off offensively. But you ride that starting five for 30 to 40 minutes each. The big men don't usually play that many minutes, but the guards can. I think that's the formula for Brad Brownell to get back to the NCAA tournament.
You mentioned Virginia being in the top three, and I find what has gone on there fascinating because, we're in an era where kids like to play up and down. They like to get out and run and score a lot and do all the things we see in a lot of college basketball today. And you always wonder, how is Virginia going to be able to continue to compete? How are they going to be able to continue to get players in which fit that system, which is very much the antithesis of what we're talking about to a certain degree, and yet somehow, some way, Dave, they do. How do they do it?
It's fascinating, and I know this is not a surprise to you because I just know you so well personally, but it is a surprise to a lot of college athletics fans who have sort of given up on some of the ideals that the student-athlete can represent. At UVA, Tony Bennett is not only a brilliant defensive basketball coach, he's about as impressive a man as you will meet. And whether he's talking about his founding pillars of UVA basketball, which is a long story that those into such things can research on their own, or you're talking about UVA as a top 5 public university, and that's how it's ranked by many of the U.S. News and World Report style ranking systems, or you're talking about the relatively new John Paul Jones Arena, or you're talking about Tony Bennett already has certified the Cavaliers as legitimate in hoops terms by winning an ACC tournament title, by having 2 first-place finishes back-to-back not too long ago, by going to 2 Sweet 16s and an Elite 8. Now, everybody asks, can they kick the door down when it comes to that higher level of postseason success? Can they get to a Final Four? We'll see. But Tony Bennett, a lot of people forget, has already done everything else you could do. Regular season titles, plural, ACC title, 2 Sweet 16s, 1 Elite 8, and he's doing it with that holistic, come here if you believe in being unselfish. Come here if you believe in outwilling the opposing team. Come here if you're unafraid of playing defense for the full 30-second shot clock and taking pride in shot clock violations by the other side. Come here if you believe there's more than one way to win basketball games at a high level and compete for championships. And he gets high-grade student athletes like a Malcolm Brogdon, who went on to be the NBA Rookie of the Year last year. But also on this year's team, Kyle Guy is a dynamic offensive player, even at Virginia, even as, Dan, there are 351 teams in Division I men's basketball. You know what the Cavaliers' pace number is? 351. Last of all teams in all conferences in D1 men's hoops. It is not easy to recruit many of the prep All-Americans and other high-caliber high school prospects to that style, to that culture, to that academic athletic balance. But given Tony Bennett's track record elsewhere, but certainly in his extended time in Charlottesville at this point, there's a certain type of young man who finds that even more attractive than sometimes an offer from a bigger name basketball program. It is the road less traveled. And you ask a great question, how are they doing it? There's an even longer answer to that question, but it has to do with Tony Bennett, the human being, Tony Bennett, the basketball coach, because those guys will go to the wall for Tony Bennett, and they believe they can execute their style even better than others can execute theirs.
And on top of all of it, young men and young women, regardless of the sport, they want to be associated with a winner. And so that has to be at the top of the reasons that he's able to get that program, because he's proven, or get players to that program, because he's proven that his system works. He's proven that everything that you talk about goes into making the UVA experience successful, even when it flies in the face of what the rest of college basketball is doing. Winning matters.
You're absolutely right. And he was getting good players when he first arrived in Charlottesville. He had an impressive track record. He even wanted a place like Washington State, for crying out loud. George Raveling's famous line about Washington State University is, it's not at the end of the earth, but you can see it from there. And it is a hard place to recruit to. It is a hard place to win at in any sport. And Tony Bennett won at Washington State of the Pac-12 in basketball against a lot of schools with bigger budgets and more resources and more tradition and all the rest. He actually had a rough final season at Washington State. And that's why I'll always give credit to the now retired AD at UVA, Craig Littlepage. It is easy to just look at the standings and hire the guy who just had, his best record at a Power 5 program and try to pursue him and hire him. It is the road less traveled to see Tony Bennett coming off of a borderline 500 type season. He had, I think, almost as many losses as wins that last year at Washington State. And yet, Craig Littlepage's attitude and UVA's attitude was, well, if the guy's built this larger body of work that is so impressive, why would I believe he stopped being a great coach simply because he fell back to earth with fewer players in his final year at Washington State? It takes guts to take that approach. It takes guts to try to win that press conference. UVA basketball has rarely been as good as it is right now in the history of the program, and it's because they took the road less traveled, just as Tony Bennett personally and with his style takes the road less traveled. But you're right, once they started winning, he went from getting good prospects to even better prospects, because you're right, everybody wants to be associated with winning. You can talk about your philosophical pillars all you want, but once recruits saw, wow, back-to-back first-place finishes in basketball over teams like Duke and Carolina at UVA, and then they break through with the ACC tournament win, 2 Sweet 16s, the 1 Elite 8, I believe he's going to get to the Final Four at some point, because I'm telling you, his top 8 players have a better understanding of what he wants from them at both ends of the floor than any team in the entire country. Doesn't mean the Cavaliers are the most talented. They're not. They might not even be one of the 2 or 3 most talented teams in the ACC. But in terms of understanding your role, embracing your role, celebrating your role, not complaining about who gets the credit, the Cavaliers' top 8 is as fine-tuned, well-oiled a machine as there is in college basketball right now.
Visiting with Dave Glenn, ACCsports.com. You used one of my favorite phrases there. It's not the end of the world, but you can see it from there. I use that to describe Rocky Mount, North Carolina, having worked there for 18 months back in the early 90s. I speak from experience. Hey, before we flip the switch away from basketball for a second, I love this very simple headline on ACCSports.com, because this is a young man in our area here who is generating an incredible amount of recruiting buzz, and his basketball decision is supposed to come in 3 days. But all it says, Dave, is Zion Williamson decision primer.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't write that one. I read it though, and it is fascinating. I mean, right there, the Clemson Tigers certainly have good timing with how they're playing so well this year. When a young man is considering the likes of Kentucky, which routinely signs such highly regarded prospects, and UNC is one of his finalists. The Tar Heels haven't signed as many lately, but historically, they're one of the best in the business of signing prep All-Americans. And then you have Clemson, clearly a football-first school, which hasn't been to the NCAA tournament for a long time. That is about as big an uphill battle as you can get, even if you're an excellent coach like a Brad Brownell, even if you're putting together a strong season. And yet the word is that whereas Kentucky has been the favorite for Williamson for a long, long time, the Clemson Tigers are a more appealing decision if he wants to stay close to home, if he wants to be the guy, right? At Kentucky, there are going to be other guys. At UNC and some of his other finalists, there are other guys, sometimes other guys already committed or signed at your position in your class. If you sign with Clemson, you're the guy. And that makes the Tigers appealing in a way that most of the other finalists are not. I don't know what the young man is going to do, but when you want to chase championships, at some point, you need to sign your share of prospects like this guy. Those other schools are used to doing such things. For Clemson, it would be a rarity, but it would be one of the biggest headlines of the college basketball recruiting year if he chose to stay in state and play for the Tigers.
All right, let's flip the switch to a little bit of football news. There's another headline under your recruiting section that says how Miami can reload their defensive line. And ironically enough, Clemson now doesn't have to worry about that.
Wow, yeah.
Did that send not just a ripple, Dave, but having all of those guys, including Christian Wilkins, decide to come back for another year, that sent shockwaves not just throughout the ACC, but throughout college football?
No, it's fascinating to me because we've actually seen the public conversation change a little bit. I don't know if you agree with me. I'd say over the last 10 years, I've seen a change of tone from when guys left early in the NFL, for the NFL or the NBA, there was often resentment among a large chunk of fans. Like, how could you do this to your school? Where's your loyalty, etc.? Because of the multi-billion-dollar nature of college athletics, I feel like the pendulum has swung to the other side, almost to the point where some fans are saying, why are you guys risking your health for the good old State University when you are jeopardizing, in Christian Wilkins' case, that 5-year, $20+ million deal? I mean, in the modern climate, some fans are actually criticizing the guys for staying. I've always believed, and you and I have had this conversation for 20 years, it's a personal decision. I'm not going to hammer the guy for staying. I'm not going to hammer the guy for leaving. It's his life. He has to play the risk-reward game. He has to ask himself some very personal questions. Sometimes there are family circumstances that we don't know about on the outside. I remember Frank Gore leaving Miami, and a lot of folks thought he was miscalculating how he was perceived by NFL scouts. And it came out later that he had, I think it was, multiple children to support. Or there's another case where somebody's mom is dying and needs a level of medical attention that is very expensive, and a young man chooses to jump under odd circumstances with that as his motivation. I mean, who would be mad at that, a guy trying to take care of his mama? In the Clemson case, obviously, competitively speaking, whereas NC State, which had a good year, lost their best offensive lineman early, Will Richardson, and their star running back return man, Nyheim Hines, early. Virginia Tech was another of the 4 best teams in the ACC this year. They lose the Edmonds brothers and a really good young defensive tackle named Tim Settle. And at that position, what do coaches tell us in college? Offensive linemen and defensive tackles. The positions where you need the most physical maturity. You just need time for your body to grow and mature and develop in the weight room and otherwise. Those are the hardest guys to replace with the next man up. And Clemson's big guys stayed, especially on the defensive line, whereas NC State loses that key offensive lineman, Virginia Tech loses that key defensive tackle, Miami loses their star running back Mark Walton early and both starting defensive tackles. Those guys don't grow on trees. You have a better chance to replacing your wide receiver, the way Clemson just lost Deion Kane and Ray McLeod. There are more of those guys ready to step in at the skill positions, most of them, than there are at offensive line and defensive tackle, especially. And Clemson got more good news than bad, whereas Miami, Virginia Tech, and NC State, I think, saw the perception of their season next year change a bit because coming off good to very good years, they lost key guys that would have helped a lot if they stayed for one more season.
You know what I always find interesting in the psychological study of the mind of the fan, and especially when you're talking about a rivalry. There have been some fans of Clemson's biggest rival in this state who have actually been bombarding Twitter with things like, well, they're paying the players to stay, they're paying the players to come back. And I'm thinking to myself, are you really making that statement? Clemson is going to pay Christian Wilkins to come back, and he's going to take that money rather than a 5-year, $20 million contract. The mind of the fan sometimes, Dave, again, would be just an incredible psychological study.
There's no doubt about it. It's true in American society. It's true in the American sports world. I've always described it as those willing to use their hearts and their minds and their souls and their brains have to tolerate those who refuse to do so. And whether that's message boards or politics or sports or anything else, I really believe that's the rule that applies. People will slander each other unnecessarily and unfairly. People will make facts up just because it makes them feel better. People will attack, and you've seen this, Dan, they'll attack 17-year-olds for making the college decision that they didn't want to see or hear. I mean, how pathetic is that among grown men especially? It's the ugly underbelly of college sports fandom. I just choose to see the glass half full and embrace the fact that there are far more people seeing and talking and hearing things the right way than there are those who have to make up stories about players taking money just because they don't want to deal with them for one more year in an opposing uniform.
Yeah, I got to tell you, spending the last 7 years at Furman and most of my time enveloped at the FCS level, and especially in the culture of Furman, it's quite refreshing to be in this situation to a certain degree than what I was on a daily basis before, and having to deal with a great deal of that nonsense. Now, there's nonsense at every level. I understand that, but my goodness, the mental midgets, and that's what they are. They're mental midgets who believe that someone is actually paying somebody enough money to bypass a $20 million contract. I mean, come on.
I agree with you. It's the world we live in, and it's unfortunate. I will say this. I agree with your statement that there is the ugly underbelly everywhere, but what a lot of fans don't realize is it is a matter of degree. Mm-hmm. And I know, for example, the Big Ten culture has a lot fewer shenanigans than, say, the SEC culture. There are universities here in North Carolina. I've gotten to know the cultures of places like Elon, which is a high-level FCS football program, but proud college basketball program at the Division I level. And when I meet their players and talk to their coaches, I mean, seriously, they have a player this year named Tyler Sebring. He is an all-CAA basketball player. Mm-hmm. He is considered one of the best writers on campus at a school that's really hard to get into. And I think he both, helps little old ladies across the street in spare time and could probably do your taxes and mine without the help of an accountant. I mean, the idea that there are not spectacular people and healthy cultures simply because we see negative headlines in other places on a regular basis is fundamentally absurd. And those who know college athletics and have been around the block the way you and I have in multiple contexts realize that it is a matter of degree, bad stuff everywhere, but far more good stuff if you're willing to look for it in most places.
No, I agree 100%, but it's like everything else. It's the bad stuff or the nonsense that garners the most headlines. And,
True.
And that's sports, that's news, that's life, unfortunately. Dave, tell everybody how they can keep up with what you're doing.
ACCsports.com is the place to go. We have all day, every day coverage of football, men's basketball, and recruiting. We're into analytics these days. Anybody who likes numbers, college football, college basketball, even some NBA. We follow some former ACC players to the next level in football and basketball. It's all day, every day, right there at the website, ACCsports.com. For those who still like the print format, we have a quarterly glossy magazine and a biweekly newsletter. And you can follow us on Twitter nowadays as well, at David Glenn Show and at ACC Sports.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon. Have fun sledding.
Hey, thanks, Dan. I'll let you know about those lawsuits. Take care, bud.
That is Dave Glenn of ACCsports.com. We'll come back with a quick segment to wrap things up in just a moment. This is the Dan Scott Show. Don't you dare go away.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingalls Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
Thanks to Dave Glenn for spending time with us as he does each and every Wednesday from August to April. Good stuff from the best in the business covering the Atlantic Coast Conference. And we always seem to go a little bit beyond the geographical confines of the ACC and find some other things that impact all of college sports and a little bit of life. And that's one of the reasons I like talking to the guy.
About a touchdown
quick story,
going into this game, but I'm not sure
and those of us who are long-suffering Bengals fans take great delight anytime there is any type of unrest in the city of Pittsburgh. In fact, I don't know if you've seen what's happened here in the last 2 or 3 weeks. First of all, when Cincinnati stunned Baltimore in the final game of the regular season, knocked them out of the playoffs and put Buffalo into the playoffs. Buffalo Bills fans, in appreciation, donated, I think, close to $200,000 to Andy Dalton's foundation, Cincinnati quarterback. Well, with Jacksonville knocking Pittsburgh
scrambling a little bit
out
up some first downs
of the
too.
playoffs,
So he played well
Bengals fans have turned around and have started donating money to a foundation of one of the Jags players in appreciation.
You have to look at the
and
Jaguars,
now
take the names,
comes
take
this
the, take
story
the team name off the jersey,
out of
forget they're the
Pittsburgh.
Jaguars.
There's a
Pretend
lot
they're
of
the
criticism
Vikings, right? Would the
of
Vikings be
coaching moves and
9-point
decisions
underdogs going into New
made
England?
by
No way.
Mike
They'd be
Tomlin
like 3-point
and
underdogs.
his staff,
this Jacksonville team, for as
especially
much as
offensive
the
coordinator
stigma
Todd
gets
Haley,
attached to
in the
who they are,
45-42
because they're
loss
Jaguars,
to the
they're just
Jaguars
different.
and
And you hear
eliminated the
Jalen Ramsey
Steelers
talking
and
to his
put
fans, like,
Jacksonville
little
in the
swagger
AFC
about them, and I
Championship
think
game
they can go in there and beat
against
the Patriots, and I'm
New
gonna pick
England
them to
coming
beat
up
the
on
Patriots in a
Sunday.
great AFC
And
championship
one of
game.
those,
Drives
a
crazy
rather
ratings.
startling revelation. There was a question on a 4th down and 1
thing that
as to
surprises me
why
here is that
they
this is
ran
the Vikings
wide as
offensive
opposed to
coordinator.
using someone as big as Ben Roethlisberger to just plunge ahead for the first down.
You look at what he has
Someone
got
went
for
back
this
and
season.
looked.
When you start the season with Sam Bradford as the starting
19
quarterback, he gets
times
hurt. Case Keenum, who was
Roethlisberger
really
has
an
run
afterthought,
on
a backup,
4th
an
and a
insurance
yard
policy
or
comes
less.
in, and you get
Basically
that
taking
sort
the
of high
snap
level
and
of
pushing
play.
forward.
Let's not forget
18
to
of those
mention,
19
Dalvin Cook
times
is their starting
he
running back,
has been
first on the
successful,
scene,
but it's been
and
2
then all
or
of a sudden
3
he
years
gets
since
hurt.
he has
So
done
being
it.
able to replace
And
those players, find
then
production, playing to those
Roethlisberger
players' strengths who are
let
largely
it be
backups and
known
didn't come into the season
in
preparing
the
for.
last day
He's
or
done a hell of a
so
job, Jamie.
that
You have to
under
certainly
Todd
give credit to
Haley's
what he
offense,
has
he's
had
not
to inherit.
allowed
Think about this. And it kind of
to
ties into where the
audibilize.
NFL is right
In
now.
other words, if he
took over from
wanted
North
to
Carolina
check
last
out
year,
of
when he had to inherit an offense that really
sweep
wasn't
or the
his,
pitch or whatever
and
it
got
was they
them,
called,
to kind
and
of right the ship when Sam Bradford got
take
hurt
the
there,
quarterback
and
sneak,
Teddy Bridgewater was
he's
out.
not
So
allowed
you're
to do
looking
so.
at
Now, this is
that
the guy
that
who's
has
been in the league
ability to kind of adapt
how
on the
many
fly.
years? He's won 2 Super Bowls.
Another
And look, and
offensive
I'm no
coordinator appears to be getting a
Roethlisberger
head
or
coaching
Steelers
job
fan,
as well. Josh McDaniels.
but the guy
He had
is
Kyle
one of the
Whitney
elite
and Tim Tebow
quarterbacks
Denver.
in the league.
Had a great start.
How do you not
Won
give
his
him
first
the
3
option
games.
to
Remember
check
the
out
video
of
him
things?
getting
How
all
do you
fired
not
up
give
after
him
the
the
Broncos
option to
got to 5-0.
audibilize
And
on
then things
things?
fell apart in
So there's a
Denver.
lot of
But
criticism
the report
that's
is
coming
that he is
down
going to
on
become
the
next head
Steelers
coach of the
after
Indianapolis
they
Colts.
lost to
He's currently
Jacksonville.
serving as the
And according
Patriots
to Mike
offensive
Florio of
coordinator.
Pro
How
Football
does he
Talk,
fit with Andrew
reporting
Luck in
yesterday,
Indy?
he said he's hearing that,
this is
quote,
the coach you bring in
some
to
of the team's
maximize your
limited
quarterback's
partners
abilities. And not saying
intend
that
to
they
lobby
put
owner
McLaughlin
Art
since he's been
Rooney
there as their offensive
to
coordinator. He's one of the
fire
best in the
Mike
game.
Tomlin
Unfortunately, this
and to
roster
hire
needs
a
help,
new
and that's what
coach.
Josh McDaniels is really
Now,
adopting. A roster that
as the
needs
story
help,
goes on to
particularly
say,
defense,
these
but he
members
is a match
of
made
the
in heaven
minority ownership, they don't have the power to hire or fire anybody. But what they apparently intend to do is make their voice heard and their unhappiness and displeasure for what is going on or what went on there known to Rooney, who is it is Art Rooney, about their unhappiness and the fact that they want a new coach. Now, Rooney's the one who's going to make that decision, but the minority owners apparently intend to lobby him to get rid of Mike Tomlin, and you'd have to assume if Tomlin is gone, Haley is gone, and there would be a complete turnover in Pittsburgh. It ain't going to happen, but I think it's funny that there's that kind of unrest inside the organization, which is widely considered to be one of the model organizations in all of professional football. Right up there with the New England Patriots. When you look at what they do year in and year out, their ability to find guys through the draft that fit what they want to do, knowing exactly the right time, it seems, when to let go a veteran player and bring in somebody younger. They have had that sustained success for a reason, and this is difficult for me to say as a Bengals fan, okay? I feel like I'm choking right now and may have to go take another shower because I feel dirty even talking about it. But facts are facts, and that's one thing that you can't get away from. Fact is that it has been a model organization. So it's kind of interesting to watch, and for those of us who are Bengals fans especially, take a little bit of glee in the fact that there appears to be some discord inside the ownership group of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the minority owners, at the very least, we're reading, are going to let Art Rooney know they are unhappy with the direction of the franchise and they want a change. So it is what it is, and we'll see if anything happens. Again, will it? No. But I just think it's very interesting that you've got this kind of discord going on in Pittsburgh, and it's fun to see that it's happening somewhere else for a change. All right, that's going to wrap things up for us. We appreciate your attention here this morning. Again, please be safe out there wherever you are. I just got the notice things have gone from bad to worse over in the northern part of Greenville County. Everything at Furman has been canceled. Campus is completely shut down now because the weather continues, the snow continues to fall, roads and everything else continue to get worse. If you don't have to go out, don't. Take care of yourself, take care of your family. Go grab a sled and have some fun. We'll be back with you tomorrow, hopefully in studio, because Connor Shaw, the former South Carolina quarterback and now the new tight ends coach at Furman, is scheduled to be with us in studio tomorrow at 10:25. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll be able to see you there. Until then, I'm Dan Scott. Thank Dave Glenn again for joining us here in the program. We will see you tomorrow. God bless you. So long, everybody.